One of the most important decisions that you have to make before moving to Canada is to pick a city where you are going to settle in. Whether you are coming in as a family, individual, as a couple, this is a decision that you have to make at one point. Hi, welcome back to Judith's Corner. As usual, on this platform, we talk about what it really means to thrive in Canada beyond just arriving. In today's video, I want to quickly highlight 5 factors that you can take into consideration when you are deciding where you are going to live when you eventually move to Canada. Towards the end of this video, I'm going to share with you guys, based on our real experience, some of the factors that we were considering for us to pick Thunder Bay. Now, going back to the factors that you can consider. Number 1, it's cost of living. You will find that when you move to Canada, we said we want to thrive, we want to succeed. So you want to pick a city also that has a low cost of living. And when we are talking about cost of living, I think the item that has the highest percentage on your budget is rental costs, because rental costs can actually eat up your budget. So you want to pick a city that has at least affordable rentals, or where you can easily also find a house that is affordable. And most of the time also, when it comes to cost of living, big cities like Toronto, Vancouver, they are very expensive. British Columbia, actually, the whole province, it's one of the most expensive provinces here in Canada. So you want to take that into consideration when you are picking where you will settle. Another factor that is important to consider when it comes to picking a city is the opportunities. Some people, when they move to Canada, sometimes you are moving because maybe you are coming to work. So already the city that you are going to find a job in, already it has been decided for you, because where you find a job is where you will go, of course. And sometimes you also need to look at your career, because there are some cities also that are good for certain career opportunities. People like in the healthcare sector, sometimes their opportunities are not limited, because wherever you go, they would need nurses, they need personal support workers. But when it comes to people in finance or, tech-based careers, you might want to look at big cities like Toronto, Calgary, Vancouver, because those are like the hubs for those kind of careers. You can actually also have a high chance of connecting to other professionals in the same career field. There are so many networking opportunities in these big cities. So if you are looking at career and job opportunities, big cities tend to win over smaller cities, because in smaller cities, job opportunities also can be difficult. Like here in Thunder Bay, I know some people who came as international students and they never managed to work during their time of study. Why? Because it's a smaller city. So you will find that sometimes the job opportunities, they are also limited. In addition to cost of living and opportunities, you also want to look at the community. I am an African, Zimbabwean, born and bred, and I know that most of the time for Africans, life is communal, life is community-based. We live on the principles of Ubuntu, like I am because we are. So we thrive better when we are together. We thrive better in communities. So when you are coming to Canada, sometimes you want to look at a city maybe where you know other people who are already living there. Let's say if you know that in Thunder Bay or Edmonton or maybe in Toronto, there are many people from Zimbabwe. You might want to go that just for that reason, because community is very important sometimes, especially when you are coming into a new environment. As much as there are so many organizations, like here in Thunder Bay, we have the Thunder Bay Multicultural Association, but sometimes you just need to connect with people who know your culture, people who come from the same country. They can help you to settle down. There are some things that you cannot learn from the internet, even if we say you can research and all, but sometimes when you are talking to people who have experienced the same thing. They can even show you where to shop for certain grocery items. Like for us in Zimbabwe, we eat sadza. When you are coming into Canada, maybe you need someone who can tell you where to find the cornmeal that we use to make our staple food. This is something that we eat every day. You just need someone that you can relate to, who can help you to settle down. So that, if that is important to you, that could be one of the reasons, or should I say factors, that you need to consider when moving to Canada. Another important factor to consider is how the transitioning is going to affect your family as a whole. Now, for this one, I'm addressing to families, because when you are moving to Canada, especially if you have kids, sometimes you want to look at smaller communities, or should I say smaller cities, where your kids can transition into a new culture gradually. I believe that sometimes, moving from a different environment, different culture, and then you just plunge your kids into the big city culture where the life is fast paced, and when they go out there, they meet different people who have a different way of life. They are exposed to all sorts of things that can actually be that can actually affect even their how they adapt to the Canadian culture. We have our values, we have our morals, we have our culture, our traditions, and sometimes you need to ease the kids into this new culture, because believe you me, I've spoken to many parents who testify to that fact, that had they moved to a smaller city when they came to Canada, it was going to make a whole lot of difference. Because sometimes, especially if you have kids who are going through the adolescence period, kids who are still growing to know their identity and who they are, you need to pick a smaller city, at least based on my opinion and experiences, and also by talking to other people who have parents, who have kids, and they tell me that I wouldn't have moved to Toronto, or I wouldn't have, nothing against those big cities, but I'm just saying, with kids, you also need to take that into consideration. Also, weather is another factor to take into consideration when you are deciding a city that you will settle in. I know that before we move, all of us, we know that Canada is cold and the weather can be cold, especially if you are moving from Africa or any other hot climate area. When you come to Canada, you can actually experience weather shock. So it's one of the things to look at, even as you are doing your research, whether you are coming as a student. If you are someone who cannot stand lots of snow and lots of cold, then don't come to Northern Ontario, or what are called the Northwest Territories, like Nunavut and all those other cold places, because you will not be able to thrive. Do you know that weather can actually affect, how you thrive when you come? If you can't go out there, if you can't stand the cold, the snow, you are going to be depressed throughout the whole winter. So weather is actually one of the most important factors that you might want to consider. I know that sometimes when we are outside Canada, we think in Canada, it snows like throughout the whole year. But there are some places that really get like lots of snow, especially. So if you don't want cold snow throughout the year, like I said, don't come to Thunder Bay, Timmins, Sudbury, because we get lots of snow. If you are someone who prefers maybe rain here and there, and then maybe not lots of sunny days in the year, then you might want to look at cities in the British Columbia province. So now, for my family and I, when we were moving, of course, if you've been following my story, when we came, my husband, actually, we came through church. My husband had to find a church where he was going to minister, and he actually got I think it was 3 opportunities that he got, and we had to decide. And one other thing also, when you're deciding, don't be in a hurry, because this is your life, and I mean, especially if you have kids, you want to take your time to look at all these other factors that I discussed and see which city works best for you. I remember one opportunity that she almost got, I think it was in Newfoundland, which is not a bad province, but then they were talking about kids who have to go to school by helicopter, and I think they were actually going to be in a boarding school, and then they will only be coming back home during the long summer holidays, and for them to go by plane, it was going to cost something like 2,000 or by boat. But it just had these conditions that we felt like they were not for us. Even though we wanted to come, my husband wanted to come and minister here in Canada, but we just let that one go. Then another opportunity came also, I think it was in Vermilion in Alberta, which was again a good place. But then again, we had to consider so many things. My family and I, because we had 2 teenage boys who were in high school, and we also had a daughter who is still going to school. So we had to look at a place where the kids will be able to go to school. Our first son, who was almost going into university, we also had to look at whether the city that we are moving to, is there a university that he can attend. And so my husband was coming, so he would get a job obviously before we come. But then myself also, I wanted to come and be able to work, because like I said, sometimes you look at opportunities. So if an opportunity is coming from a small city that doesn't really have many opportunities, then I mean, you are starting life from zero, and it will take a long time for you to settle down. So my family and I were looking at all those things overall for all of us, to make sure that when we come, all of us will be able to start life and be able to thrive eventually. Schools, job opportunities, community also. Like I said, very important. We were also looking at, are there Africans in that particular area, the weather and everything. But I think when it comes to weather, maybe we didn't even really consider how the temperatures were. We knew that it's cold, but then the reality, it hits you hard, especially when it comes to the amount of snow and the cold temperatures here in Thunder Bay. But otherwise, Thunder Bay has been so good to us. We like it here, and we thank God every day for this opportunity. So there you have it, guys. These are some of the factors that we considered, and I think you can also consider even as you make that move and you decide on where you want to build a life from when you come here to Canada. I hope this helps you even as you continue on your journey. And then when you are here in Canada also, you can actually decide to move again. So here we're just talking about where you land. But when you land after 1 year, 2 years, especially when you have your papers, then you can go on now to decide where you want to settle and maybe build a life long term. Canada is so big with so many opportunities. Sometimes also you need to be careful to be carried away, to move from one city to another without really settling in one. But well, it depends on the kind of life that you need. Otherwise, until next time, and thank you for watching.